Okay, so it's been roughly 2 to 3 weeks since taking the Miata in, so we're gonna go pick it up. And in the meantime, we're going to drop off the Audi R8 to get an oil change. I actually haven't been driving the R8 too much lately just because it does need that oil change, so it'll be nice to fire this up and get it back over to the shop. But yes, 3R did find a lot more that was going on with the Miata. It was just a couple of items that I had already kind of thought about replacing. So I'll go over that invoice and everything with you guys here soon. But yes, I believe now with the Miata, all that's left is painting it, getting a hard top if we have to, getting some seats if we have to. Oh yeah, and a roll cage of some kind. So that is what we're gonna be up to. So let's go ahead and get out of here. So I took these arm pieces because I've got a buddy of mine that's actually part of Shift Colorado. He's got a Miata that is in lemons, so I'm just curious if he needs any of these parts. If so, I'll just give them to him, but otherwise they'll be tossed. Okay, let's see if we remember how to drive manual. That's some hot tea. Okay. The Miata is back, which is great. I actually really missed driving that car, and it's only been 3 weeks, but I feel like I haven't seen it in like months. So I took it to 3R Automotive here in town. They're just kind of the best shop that I can find. They charge a lot, but in my opinion, it is well warranted because of the level of work that they provide, the quality of work that they provide. So, plus they're just great guys. This is the list of what I had them do. So, first thing on the list, we have the align and corner balance. So, I needed to do that because we installed the new teen coilovers on the Miata, and I actually love the corner balancing. It completely changes how the car feels. The next thing that I had them do is that I just had them look over the DIY installs that Mike, Roshan, Ali, and I all did. So the coilovers, wanted them to double check that. Also got the radiator double checked and some new hardware in there. So that was just for peace of mind. I wanted them to double check everything that we did, which I would recommend doing if you are somewhat new to doing stuff yourself on your cars, is take it to a shop that you trust, have them look over it, just to make sure. The next thing that I had them do was I wanted them to equalize the ride height all around. Chances are that they were gonna get much better ride height compared to what Mike and I could adjust the car to. So they did that. They raised it a tiny bit, but now we're not scraping nearly as bad on the tires. So that's a big win. The next thing that they did is that they replaced pretty much all of the bushings, save for a few that were like particularly difficult. I told them, hey, let's do that for another day, but otherwise, all new bushings. They did improve the radiator mounting. If you remember in the video where we installed that, It was still a little loosey-goosey in there just because we didn't have all of the bolts. It was definitely better than the stock radiator, but yeah, they got that all taken care of. We finally got a proper oil change. They managed to get the oil filter off. That thing was probably on there for a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, like 6,000, 7,000 miles. We still replaced the oil in it, so it's not like it was the worst thing ever, but so good to finally get that taken off. I don't know who ugga the ever-living crap out of that. It just must have been a previous shop that I took it to. The car did have some coolant leaks, so they diagnosed that and got those fixed. They also found some fuel issues. So when Mike and I attempted to replace the injectors, we actually ended up nicking a couple of gaskets that were on there and O-rings, so wasn't the best, but those were kind of falling apart anyways, so it was good to get those replaced. But yeah, they sent in the original injectors that were in the car when I got it to go and get them cleaned. They also got some new injector connectors as well as fuel rail bushings, and they found out that the idle air control valve gasket was failing, so that was replaced as well. Most of these parts that I'm listing are like typically $30 or less. They really don't cost anything, which is the wonderful part about owning a Miata. But the labor, of course, costs a decent bit, so. They did manage to fix the belt squeal, thank God, so we don't have the thing starting up and going like, ah! I mean, I haven't heard it squeal yet, so that's a good sign. It was so funny because it was like, whenever I would be driving it around, especially if it was cold out, the alternator belt, which they replaced and adjusted, right when the car would start getting hot, it would start to squeak. It would just be like, squeak, 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 squeak. And then after a little bit of that, it would just make this horrible squealing noise. It was very embarrassing, so I'm really glad that they got that fixed. They also found out that the fans were hitting the sway bar and it was making a tapping noise. So that was fixed. Then also here's the really fun parts is that for a lot of the control arms and the bushings that were in them, it was actually cheaper to just replace the entire control arm and not put in new bushings. So we got that done. It was the front upper control arms, the rear upper control arms, front lower control arms. Those were all replaced with brand new arms, which is awesome. Definitely feels dramatically different. They also installed some sway bar bushings. They noticed that there was an issue with the fuel. They think that I might have gotten bad gas. Maybe it was all that chili that I put into the Miata. They drained the fuel, replaced it with new fuel, and it's good to go there. They also found that there was a big leak for coolant coming through the thermostat and the thermostat gasket, so they replaced those. I was curious about the thermostat anyways, so it's good stuff. They also found that the heater core hose gasket was leaking, so they replaced that. They also replaced the fuel filter. I was super curious about the fuel filter. I had a feeling it should have been replaced, and so they did it very, very quick and easy. The water pump outlet, it's like the hose, it's the lower radiator hose that leads to the heater. That was replaced too. Turns out that was actually leaking. But yeah, that was everything. So all said and done with the amount of hours it took to diagnose some of those issues and replace some key elements, 3R was about $6,000.
Damn!
So that's twice the amount that I paid for the car, but it is so worth it. I absolutely love driving this car, and I don't think I'll be letting it go anytime soon since it was my first manual car. You kind of have that, I kind of already have that nostalgia feel towards it, kind of like, you know, it's the first car. So I get the feeling I'll be holding on to it for a while. I'm not super worried about making a whole bunch of money on it by any means, but yeah, we have officially blown way past that $10,000 original budget. My bet is that we're gonna be ending up closer to like 15, 16 grand into it once it's painted, and once we get the roll cage, the hardtop, the seats, I think we'll be sitting right around there. Those items that I just listed, that's basically all that's left on the Miata to do. It's come along a lot quicker than I expected. And right now, the main thing that we're waiting on to get delivered are those taillights that I mentioned in a previous video. But yeah, these taillights are super cool. They're made by Katana Tails. Katana Tails typically makes taillights strictly for RX-7s and 3000 GTs, but I saw the RX-7s and I was like, hey, that's a very similar taillight shape. And so they are making the first Mazda Miata taillights for little old me. So that is very exciting. It's just taking a while for them to build it out and ship it over here. But yeah, as far as I know, those are getting very close to being completed, and we'll get those installed in the car. So yeah, that's it. That's probably what's going to be coming up in the next install videos. Should be finished up this year, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video, guys. I really appreciate you watching. Just kind of a general update video on the Miata, and it's running much better than what it was, and it just feels so much more solid, like with all the suspension work that 3R did on it and the alignment. The thing feels like it's on rails. So that is going to be a very fun time at High Plains Raceway once the spring rolls around. I need to go and get a roll cage coming up because I want to get that thing out on the track as soon as possible. So thank you guys so much for watching. As a reminder, I upload every single Sunday, and we will see you in the next one.